Yay! Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to Betwixt the Books Discuss. This week we are going to be discussing DNFing books. What is DNFing? Who does it? How do you feel about it? All of these questions shall be answered. If you have a question for us or would like to take part in the discussion, you can always leave a comment down below. But if you want us to interact with you right away during this live stream, I suggest tweeting at one of us with the hashtag BTB discuss, yes?
Yes.
I did it. Oh goodness, I almost forgot our hashtag. That's the hashtag we're using. Please feel free to do that. Or you can just comment below. You don't have to tweet during the live stream. If you're watching the VOD of this later, that's fine. Leave a comment. Join the discussion. We'll come back and leave comments in response when that's done. But if you would like to interact with us while we are live, that would be the best way to do it because our phones will buzz and then we will know. Do you want to start since you are in charge of the talking points this time?
I am weirdly in charge of talking points. So I guess just straight up, just so you know, if you don't know what the acronym DNF means, it means did not finish. And it's something colloquially used if you have a book and you stop reading it for some reason. And generally, it tends to be because you don't like it, but there are many, very different reasons for that, and we're going to talk about some of them today. And so the first question is, do you even DNF books and why?
So I'll answer since you asked so kindly. I very rarely DNF books. Part of that is because I have such a wide taste in books that I am able to push through and enjoy some aspect of books in general. The things that make me DNF a book are one of two things. One, the book does something that affects me too much. So if you remember, we had an episode of Bibliomancy for Beginners a couple summers ago where we read Codename Verity, which was a war book. War books, for me, I know I have trouble reading. They're really difficult for me mentally. They cause my anxiety to go out of whack, and it's really difficult for me to read them. So I had to DNF that book because I just couldn't read it. It wasn't that it was bad.
But you should. It's good.
Yes, it wasn't bad, but mentally I couldn't handle it. And that's true of a lot of war books. When a book is bad and I DNF it, the really only thing that makes me put a book down and say nope is author intervention. When the plot is happening and then something happens, usually to my favorite character, that I cannot accept. That they're doing this to mess with the character, move the plot forward, whatever it is. I get so mad that I cannot finish the book. This isn't always the case, but usually that's why I would DNF a book, is that author has done something that I can't accept in the world or for that character just to further the plot somehow.
So I totally DNF books, but I haven't done it in a while. And here's why I used to DNF books. Because when I was in the a heyday of my blogging back when I was in high school, when I could do this full time, I would get a million arcs. I wasn't crazy popular or anything, but I had a bunch of arcs from NetGalley and Edelweiss, and I was reading a lot. And it got to the point where I just wouldn't, because I generally have this thing. I was like, no, I will always punch through a book and I want to be able to review it and stuff like that. But it got to the point where I was just like, I've seen this trope before. I'm really tired of the storyline, or I would just be like, the writing is terrible and I refuse. So that was all when I had a whole bunch of reading material that I had to sift through really fast. I haven't DNF'd a book basically since college started, because I stopped blogging full time and I went back to only reading the books that I really genuinely wanted to read, and so I haven't done it in a while. But yeah, so those three main things: really terrible writing, I've seen the plot before, or it made me angry, is basically the reasons for that.
Valid reasons.
Valid reasons. And also because I read a lot of YA. So, like, if I picked up at an arc and I was like, oh God, again? Like, no, I don't need to read this again.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Valid.
that was me.
Do you want me to ask the next question?
Sure, please.
What's your review policy on DNF books?
So I think that this causes some tension sometimes when people rate books they didn't finish or review books they didn't finish. So my general policy is, so I have a list on Goodreads that I mark DNF did not finish. And so people can see that. I generally do not rate them. I will mark them as read, but I don't rate them because I think that that's unfair. I will just put a very brief couple of sentences in the Goodreads review about why I DNF'd it and how far I got into it. So I'll say, not for me, or bad writing, or these characters were really annoying. But yeah, marked as read, not rated, with a few sentences in the review as to why. And this has only been different on 2 occasions, which I probably will talk about related to another question.
Okay. I have never felt comfortable reviewing a book that I didn't finish, and the reason that is because, hold on.
Gesundheit.
Thank you. The reason that is because I don't know. Maybe something happens at the end of the book that makes it, everything that was terrible up to that point makes sense, makes the thing that I thought was author intervention not author intervention. Whatever it is that made me so upset I couldn't finish it, maybe it was beautiful by the end. So having not finished it, I can't fully explain why I didn't do it. Now, I tend to just remove books I DNF'd from my Goodreads. Like, I don't have a spot where I could be like, here's the book that I didn't finish. But again, it's very rare that I DNF a book. And in the case of Codename Verity, like I said, I still had to talk about it because we were talking about it in book club, and I said right away, okay, I didn't finish it, but what I read I enjoyed. This is the reason why I couldn't finish it. Maybe one day I'll get to it, but right now I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I know for me, the DNF shelf appeared because I was reading so much that sometimes I would forget which books I had and hadn't read because I possessed so many books, which is why I stopped reviewing after that point. I was like, I have snowballed myself into a pile of books I was supposed to review so deep I will never crawl out of it. So I literally had to start putting the marker on it, did not finish, you read it, just in case, and also I came across it again, and I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting, and I forgot that I did it. So, yeah, that's why I did it, because I have zero memory. It's just
That's fair. Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Because I've had so few, I can sort of list them to myself and know what they are. But if I had as many as you would have when reviewing arcs that you just couldn't finish, then yeah, that makes sense. You would want a place to have them so that you can refer to it.
Oh, I think I just accidentally answered the next 2 questions in one. Because the second talking point is how do you categorize books that you've DNF'd? So LOL, friends, there you are. That is how I also categorize books that I DNF. I use my Goodreads, and my Goodreads tells me, and that's what I do. And I mean, it is true, because when I was telling Michaela, I did some research in this hangout before it started, because I knew that a bunch of the stuff I had a bunch of this stuff, but like I said, I haven't DNF'd a book in a really long time. So I didn't even remember over half the books. And I only have 13 books on my DNF shelf. But I literally didn't remember half of them because it was just so... I was just no, bored, go away. On to the next 75 things that I have to do.
Such a queenly thing to do. You're boring me. Get out of here.
Away. Presents.
Yep. Okay. Do you read DNF reviews, and how do you treat their information? Let me answer this, since I also answered I don't categorize them. There are so few of them that I just don't. I do listen to and read DNF reviews. If it's like a video review, I'll watch it. I sort of take it with a grain of salt. So it's the same way that I would treat a negative review that somebody had finished the book, where if they're talking about it and the comments that they're making about it seem like something that I won't mind, like Gretchen said that she can't get through a book that has bad writing. Sometimes I can push through bad writing for like a good story or a good characters. If everything is bad, then I might DNF the book and just be like, no. And that might have changed now because I care more about writing than I did when I was reading as much. But I also very clearly have been picking books that I know have good writing. I read a lot of award-winning books or a lot of literary fiction books, which are known for their writing capabilities, so I don't often have to deal with that. But if somebody's saying, okay, I couldn't deal with this because this, and this showed up in it, and those are things that I can't push through, but I'm fine with it, I will, and I find the book interesting, I will still pick it up. And sometimes even though they hate everything, I'm still like, you know what, I'm gonna try it anyway, just because it sounds like something interesting that I want to see. That was the case with Me and the Devil by Nick Tosches that I read in like August. I saw a negative review of it, and even though she like didn't like it very much, I was like, that sounds like something I would enjoy. So I read it and I reviewed that on my blog. And I agreed with her criticisms, but at the same time, doesn't mean that other people wouldn't like it. We all have our own opinions and stuff.
Yeah. So I am terrible in that I don't actually read a lot of reviews of books before I pick them up. And because I really just want to read what I want to read, if that makes sense. And so I will, like, if I add a book, if I happen to see a book on Goodreads, I will look at the reviews, but I'm not like searching through them and looking for them. I really like the Goodreads function of putting the reviews of people that I trust at the top. And so in that case, I'll like read through those if those exist. And I'll be like, okay, so this person who I know that I agree with most of the time said this, or this person who, you know, is still my friend, but I know that we have different tastes, has said this, so then I know what that is. But unless there's like a really publicized reason that a lot of people are DNFing a book, I generally don't actually know about it. So, I mean, I definitely do read them. And I read a lot of reviews after I read a book, which is, I think, is kind of weird in that sense, but I really like seeing that. And sometimes it makes me recognize something about a book that I like didn't see because I had rose tinted glasses on. Like Grave Mercy is a really good example of that. Someone that whose reviews I trust was like, you gave that 5 stars? And I was like, yeah, it's so great. And now, you know, a couple years later, I'm like, oh, bugger. I did a bad thing. And I wrote a post about that if you're interested in seeing that. It's called The Grave Mistake I've Made with Grave Mercy, because I'm a punny title.
But puns.
Yeah, but that's me. I really don't like find them and seek them or read like reviews in general, period. Unless, again, like a book on Goodreads has like 2 stars, and I'm like, whoa, dear.
Scary.
Scary. But yeah. Okay. What is this next talking point? Oh, okay. So you should probably answer this first because I have like stories attached to this. So this is, have you ever / would you ever treat a book that made you really mad / angry / upset / whatever differently than you usually treat DNF books?
My only answer to this is that I am a book hoarder. I don't often get rid of books. I did just go through my bookcase and like take out a bunch of books that I didn't want on my shelves, that I didn't enjoy when I read them, or aren't going to read them because my reading taste has changed or whatever reason that is. But if there is a DNF book that made me mad, that is the only exception, that right away that book is not going on my bookcase, because my bookcase is a sacred place for all of the pretty books that I care about. And that book either gets given away or donated or something. It doesn't make its way to the bookcase again. It's gone. It has been shunned, so to speak. But that's about it. I don't like do anything else to them, I don't think.
Okay. So I promised y'all a story, and I have a story, and that is, and I mentioned that, so I have these 13 books that I have definitely marked as DNF, that I didn't finish all the way through, and I mentioned that there were 2 that I've treated differently than, you know, just not rating them, marking them as read, and putting them on my DNF shelf. And the first one, which is actually the reason that I began my DNF shelf, I believe, was Shattered Souls by Mary Lindsay, and it is this book. This was also one of the most awkward experiences that I ever had as a book blogger, because when I started doing Goodreads updates, I was reading the book, I guess the author of the book realized it and started following me on Twitter, but I didn't know until I started having really, really disparaging Goodreads status updates, and she had to like DM me and be like, I'm gonna unfollow you, but just FYI, like blah blah. And it was like, she was really nice about it, but it was really awkward. But I had a policy up to that point of not reviewing DNF books, but that book made me so fly off the handle angry that I ended up writing. It wasn't like a review of the book. I did like bring out parts of the book, but it was more generically about like how YA books were starting to, and really still do, romanticize like the stalkerish, abusive dark boy. And this book was really bad. Like there's a quote from the book in that blog post, which I already have linked to the post on my blog, actually. And this quote is literally about how one of these guys that she's in love with, the first one tries to have sex with her over her father's grave while he's drunk on her birthday, and the second one says that her fear is a turn on for him. And I was just like, I don't even understand. So that was one thing for me where I was like, and I did rate it. I rated it 1 star on Goodreads because I was like, I literally like had this nauseous fear of like other people reading this book, and I was like, no.
That's actually a common thing in the paranormal romance genre as well, which is why I sort of stick to authors that I trust in the genre. It's like so easy for them to be like, the vampire wants to kill me and he like loves doing that. And while I definitely prefer scary vampires to Edward Cullen sparkly vampires, I also don't think it's okay to like romanticize the danger there, because then women are going to think that they want to be in a relationship that's abusive, and that's not okay. It's not okay, so that's understandable.
Yeah, and it's actually the reason. So the only other book, and this one was much less of a review about necessarily this book, but it was Amanda Sun's Ink, which I read like a year after Shattered.
It has a very pretty cover. Even I remember when it came out. It was such a pretty cover.
So pretty and such a cool idea. But I think, I just reread this post because that's also linked on my blog post. I got through 19% of the book because I had the arc before I was like, nope. Because again, it was like this girl literally rearranges her life to spend more time with this guy. And the first time you meet him, I guess, like what I said in my post, because I do not have any memory of this book, is that like he got this girl pregnant and like was being a little brat, and it's just like, again, one of those things where I was just like, this is what we're supposed to be. And it was like I was much more even tempered in that it was a rant, but it was more even tempered about how it wasn't necessarily like this book that was making me angry. It was like I was reading all these books with the same idea, and I happened to have started Ink, and that's what really set me off, was because I had really wanted to love Ink, and then it was terrible.
Yeah.
And so I did, for Ink, I didn't rate it on Goodreads, and I don't think I even linked this post to it because it really wasn't about Ink. It was about like the trope in general. But again, I did post that review when I should have been posting the review of the arc in place of it, basically saying, here's why I DNF this book, because it felt important for me to talk about the trope as opposed to the book. So that's the only 2 times that like books have made me so upset that I have not finished them and then reviewed them. I have definitely had books that I finished, reviewed, and still been upset by.
Yes,
but
course.
yeah, just like two of my favorite rants that I've ever written that were just like,
wow.
But yeah, so that's my really long-winded explanation of like different treatment that I've had of books.
Yeah.
That I've DNF'd.
All right, I'll ask the next question. What would make you consider picking up a DNF book again?
So for this, I went back and I looked at the list of books that I had DNF'd and why I had DNF'd them. Good job, past Gretchen, for putting that there. And I think the only book that I would ever consider out of like that 13 picking up again was the one I started a book, and I guess I didn't realize that I had requested, and it was like a thriller. And I don't even know why I possessed that arc to begin with, but like I'm not a thriller person. I don't like to read thriller novels, but as I've like matured as a reader, they've gotten less scary for me to read. So like I have DNF'd books I've just been like, whoa, not for me, in the moment, and so I would consider picking that up again because it wasn't anything about the book itself. It was just the actual like kind of book that it was, which is my fault. I shouldn't have requested that arc to begin with. I don't know why I had a trigger finger towards the end there, and I think that's what did me in now, and I'm like blocking smarter, but yeah. So I think that would be the only reason, because generally I DNF books and then I'm just like, this is so not worth my time, and move on.
Understandable. For me, because there are so few that I DNF'd, if somebody I trusted said, no, you just have to get past that, it makes sense, and told me that, I would probably pick it up and push through, basically. But there haven't been very many that I like can say that I would just never ever touch again. But I also am like a pickier person when it comes to grabbing books, and I read from so many genres that like if I'm iffy on a book, I won't read it in general, if that makes sense. Like for you, because you read one genre, you try and majority one genre, you try and read everything in a way, whereas I'm like, well, I can pick up this other book from this other genre that I'm more excited about rather than trying this because there's something about it that I'm like in the first place.
I think I don't even know what book this is now, but I feel like it's through book club. I've motored through books that I would have DNF'd for sure. And also I've been encouraged to do that because like you guys have said, no, like this thing gets cool and stuff like that. Well, I'm sitting there going, oh my God. Mostly for Taylor's pick. Shout out to Taylor who just sent me a Snapchat that he's watching. And but that's like kind of an in the moment. I'm sure like if I had been reading a book, and I'm sure this might have happened in like books that I've read for class, that I've like kind of went, and people are like, no, you have to go back and read it. But like it doesn't, I can't, I feel like it has happened, but I can't pick the book where that's happened.
The teleportation accident for you, both Taylor and I were like, no, but the end makes everything worth it. And you were like, no. That was like the first.
I am not sure I ever finished the teleportation accident.
See?
If honest to God, I think that might be one book that I just said, fuck this.
You were just like, no.
Nope.
No. You pushed through John Dies at the end for me.
I did. Okay, because John Dies at the end wasn't that terrible. It was just bad.
She says that, but I love it. It's so good.
That's why we make a good book club.
Yeah.
Okay. So, question for you.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between DNFing a book and perpetually reading?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about this because there are plenty of books that I have started and not finished, but intend to finish, which is why you will often see like one book sitting in my currently reading on Goodreads for like a year. And it's because when I originally picked it up, I couldn't get through it, or it got set aside because I was more excited about something else because I read multiple books at once. Just because I can't read I realize this about myself, that it's really difficult for me to just like read one all the way through. I have different tastes and I want different things at different times in the same day or on different days, where I'm like, today I'd like to read a thriller, tomorrow I'd like to read some literary fiction, whatever it is. So I have all of these options to me, but those I intend to finish. So they stay there forever, and they're technically DNF because I haven't finished them, and I started them and they were just sitting there, but because I have that intention to finish them at some point, I think it changes things a little bit.
I mean, I wouldn't consider that DNF because like I'm sometimes a little bit trigger happy with like adding things in my Goodreads reading. And then something will come up because like I think I just moved. This has happened to me recently, like twice, but I can only remember one book. Like I recently moved Invasion of the Tierling by Erica Johansson off my currently reading, and put it back on my want to read because I read the first chapter and I don't know what happened when I first got that book, but I just never kept reading it. And it's not because I'm not very interested in it. I've actually had to like hold myself off from picking that book up after we did our hangout on it, actually. But like I intend to read it, but like I added it to my currently reading too prematurely.
Yeah.
And then it sat there since I think since like September. It had been sitting there, and I was like, "This is just I'm not doing this right now. This is a lie." Or I'll leave something sitting there when I'm not reading anything to make it look like I'm reading something, and then I'll change it later.
Crazy. I should also say that because I read from the library and there's sort of a time limit on how long I can have those books, there's been times because I'm trigger happy at the library, like I want this one and this one and this one and this one, and I forget that all of these are going to be due 3 weeks from now at the same time. And I can't read that fast, plus other things that I want to be reading at the time. But if I started something and I didn't have a chance to finish it and I've already renewed it and I can't renew it again, or somebody else requested it and has it on hold and I have to give it back, it stays in my currently reading, even though I won't necessarily like get it back right away. So I have The Accidental by Ali Smith in my currently reading. I read it, I got it over the summer right before I came back to school and I had to return it, and I had only gotten like 40 pages in. I got it from school library to read because I wanted to finish it, and then couldn't because I had so much reading for school to do, and studying for Chinese and stuff, so I just didn't have time to read it, so it sat on my bedside table the whole semester, and then I had to return it. So yeah, I might have to get that from the library again to finish it, but because it wasn't my book, I couldn't keep it and keep reading it. I had to give it back, type things. So that happens to me a lot, where I'm like, I'm still technically reading it, I just had to stop.
Yeah, and I feel like it like sometimes shows, like it's like it reflects poorly on I feel like it reflects poorly on the book and like my reaction to the book if it's still sitting there. But I'm like, I literally just don't have the time. It's not that I'm not interested.
I love so I'm going to put a video out this week on Your Invitation to a Modest Breakfast, which is a really teeny tiny poetry collection, and honestly it shouldn't have taken me months and months and months to finish, but I like read a couple of them and then put it down and didn't pick it up again until this week, and then I finished it. But like I said in my review, just because it took me 7 months to get to this does not mean that I did not like it. I liked it, but I just couldn't read it all at once. And then I talked about why that was. But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's
I always
like
feel the
a
need to put in
guilt.
that disclaimer as well. Like, I really liked this. I know it took me forever, but like I didn't mean it. I'm apologizing to this like paper pulp. I'm so sorry.
Oh, don't you love that? Alrighty. We've been talking for half an hour, so I think we're all right.
We are so good. We are amazing. We got through all of our talking points in 30 minutes. Boss.
Did it. If you guys want to talk about DNF books, by all means, in the comments below. You can also tweet at us after the fact. But yeah, we'll see you guys soon with some recorded videos. I'm gonna have that review up soon, probably Thursday. We'll see.
I won't. My review this week is text, but next week, if Taylor and I can get our act together, we'll have another joint anthology review for you that will be a video, and I will be putting on the back of it that 7-second clip that I've promised of Taylor making a fool of himself.
Yeah.
So look forward to that.
That makes me so happy. Yeah, so we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.